So welcome everybody to our Marinas and Yacht Club's Spill Response Communication Workshop. And happy Earth Day again. My name is Vivian Matuk. I'm the Environmental Boating Program Manager for both the California State Parks and the California Coastal Commission. And I'm honored and super excited to have a fantastic team of colleagues with the Office of Spill Prevention and Response. So I will turn the podium to Andrea, who will be introducing herself as well as the rest of the team.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Happy Earth Day. We're so glad you guys could join us this morning. Thank you for taking time out to learn about what we do and how we can help you in the event of an unfortunate spill. And we're grateful to have you here today. My name is Andrea Moore. I work for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's Office of Spill Prevention and Response. I am a statewide volunteer coordinator. I'm also a liaison officer when there's a spill. But today I'm working in the auspices of my grants coordinator and outreach and training position. So welcome, I'm glad you're here. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Anastasia Norris, to introduce herself.
Good morning. My name is Anastasia Norris. I am a fish and game warden / wildlife officer. I use both terms interchangeably because some people know us as one, some people know us as the other. I work for the law enforcement division with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I'm assigned to the Office of Spill Prevention and Response. You'll probably hear us just refer to it as OSPR because it's much easier and shorter than saying the whole thing. But I've been with OSPR since about December of 2010. So I've been here for the majority of my career, and I look forward to giving my presentation and answering all your questions.
Thanks, Anastasia. And then I'd like to introduce you to Mike Caliguri. He's one of our oil spill prevention specialists. Mike?
There we go. Good morning. Can you hear me? I am with the Northern FRT field response team, and I'm an oil spill prevention specialist. I handle, I'm on call right now, so my phone's kind of started blowing up, but I will be covering some of the presentation along with Warden Norris and Andrea. So welcome.
All right. Thank you, team. So a couple of recommendations for all of us to make this educational workshop as pleasant as possible. First of all, I want to invite everybody to turn on your cameras. Why is that? It's just to make sure that we are closer together so we can also check if you have any questions, just to make sure that you're present. We want just to be very efficient in our communication today. If for some reason, because I understand, internet is a pain in the neck or your camera doesn't work, I totally get it. But if you have the capacity to have your camera on, that would be fantastic so we can check how you guys are doing. In addition to that, I'm going to keep everybody muted, not because I don't want to hear your beautiful voices. It's just to avoid the background noise sometimes Zoom tends to create. But of course, we're going to have plenty of opportunities for you guys to ask questions, as you saw in the agenda that I already shared with you. Vivian, how can I unmute myself? Just click on top of the microphone icon, which is the easiest way for you to do that. In addition to that, we have created plenty of opportunities to ask questions. And so please keep your questions for those sections. Again, we don't want just to interrupt the flow of the presentation. Sometimes you're going to ask a question that is going to be covered in the next slide or in the next few minutes. So that will allow the flow of the presentation to go extremely well. And we love to use the chat, but let's try to refrain from using the chat. Sometimes it creates a lot of distraction and people tend to look at the eye and see, oh, I want just to see what is the people say, what are the people saying? So please try to avoid that and use the chat either to ask questions, for a clarification if needed, and of course, let's give plenty of time for questions and answers. You can also raise your hand depending on the version of Zoom you have, so we will be able to let you ask your questions. Your handouts have been sent to you already 3 times, and I include them in the chat link. You are receiving the Marinas and Yacht Club Spill Response Communication packet. It has several pages. We're going to be reviewing that handout today. In addition to that, that handout also has a handout that is entitled Recommended Resources for Oil Spill Cleanup, Oil Spill Kits for Marinas and Yacht Clubs. That's part of that, but I wanted just to give a specific section so you know it's there. And then we also included the California Office of Emergency Service little tiny handbook. So that's also included in the chats that you all receive. So getting to know you, we have a very good group of people today. As you can see, we have over 66 people because I have been receiving in the chat, hey, Vivian, I'm seated with 2 or 3 colleagues, so we have a big group. I checked your registration today, and I created this fantastic map to show you where you guys are joining us from. So we have people from all over the state. I'm super excited. From Alameda, Butte, Contra Costa, Dorado, Fresno, Lake, Los Angeles, Marine, Monterey, Napa, Orange County, Placer, Riverside, Sacramento, Santa Barbara, San Diego, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, San Luis Obispo, Solano, Ventura, and even Nevada County, which is Clark. So welcome, everybody. And we have a super diverse group of marina, yacht club operator, port district, cities, counties, and we also have Coast Guard auxiliary. So everybody's welcome to this fantastic workshop. Quickly reviewing the agenda. So first, we're going to start from a bird's eye view perspective. Our colleague Anastasia is going to give us an overview of the California oil spill response structure, so you kind of understand how the state has this structure that works so well when there's a spill. So that gives us a very good understanding in how the different federal state agencies and specifically OSPR works with respect to a spill. Then we will have a section for questions. Then I'll be presenting an overview of the toolkit that I mentioned already you received via your handouts, which contains great information, and I'll explain to you all of them. Then we will have the section for questions. We'll have a break so you can recharge your soul and body and get your Colombian coffee, of course. And then we'll come back and we're going to talk about new case studies. Some of you have joined us in the past. I have seen some of you in previous workshops. And every year with Andrea and her team, we try after the evaluation form to regroup and identify, okay, how can we improve these workshops so it better serves you? Because that's our main goal. How can we work closer with you? So based on previous feedbacks and previous years, this year we're bringing new case studies for you to learn about what happened, lessons learned, best management practices, and you have the opportunity to ask questions. And then we're going to wrap it up by having Andrea talking about some grants that are available for public agencies, but also there's a way, because OSPR is really creative, to see how we can work with private marinas in terms of the oil spill response grant. Then we will wrap it up with questions. And then we're going to ask you for your important feedback via the evaluation form. And I will be asking every single participant, even though you're seated in the same room, to please help us with an evaluation form. All right. So what are we learning today? Based on the email that you received that called your attention to register for this workshop, and as we clearly stated in the email and the flyers we created, today we're going to start, as I already mentioned, with the bird's eye view perspective, the California oil spill response structure, then the toolkit, real case studies, and then the grants. Why are we putting these workshops together? We wanted to invite you to step aside from your daily routine and come to this educational workshop so you can learn new information or refresh your memory about some procedures or protocols every marina and yacht club and boating facility should have in place in your facility. It is important for us to remember that we all have to be proactive. We have to prepare, prevent, and respond. And let's remember that emergencies are best handled by a teamwork. We also wanted you to come to this educational workshop and bring experts. That's why we have this fantastic team. So you can ask questions and then use them as a reference in the future for any question you may have. Let me be clear and highlight many times. There are no silly questions. If you have a question, please ask the question. That's why the team is here. If we don't know for any reason the response, we'll do the research, but feel free to feel that this is a safe atmosphere for you to ask questions. That's the goal of the workshop. And also we want to make sure that you are able to bring back this information to work with your staff in your facility to correct or improve the procedures related to spill response, emergency response, among others. And we're going to be covering information not only inside of your facility, but also that may impact you outside of your facility. So having said that, and just to make this presentation really interactive, we as a team have been creating these polls. So I'm going to launch a poll and I want everybody to start answering the poll. So the first question, it's called, do you know who is your county office of emergency service? This is a safe environment. It's anonymous. So if you don't know and you don't have any clue what Vivian is talking about, please just say, I don't know. We just want to make sure that we bring to your attention different information that needs to be included in your facility and that you're aware of that. So I'm going to give yourself extra seconds. Please make sure that you participate in the poll. And so far we have 66% of the participants, 70. I want us to get closer to 80. So please, everybody respond. And we'll give you extra minutes here. And please respond the question directly into the poll. You have the capacity to do that. All right, let me end the poll and share the results here. Andrea, can you see the results now? If you can just give me a thumbs up, perfect. So we have that 54% of the participants don't know, but they are excited because they are like, hey, teach me, why do I need to know about them? And how can I get a hold of them? So that's good. So that's the first question. Now, let me go back and share another poll for you. So hold on for a sec. So the second question would be, does your facility have a current spill plan in place? Vivian, what do you mean by current? That me and my staff review it in the last 6 months. Or hey, Vivian, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know what that plan is. So again, it's anonymous. So be sincere, be honest, and let us know. Again, this is mainly educational. So thank you for all of you who have participated. We have 70%, 71. Let's go to 70. Oh, fantastic. Great, 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 great. So let me stop here for a sec and share the results. So we see that 71% yes, fantastic. They have a current spill plan in place. That's great. 20% don't even know what that plan means. No worries. And then 9% is saying, sorry, no, my facility doesn't have a spill plan in place. So that's good to know. Excellent. All right. We have a third poll, which is, hold on for a sec, and the poll stopped sharing. Now we're going to launch the third poll, which is, do you know what your neighboring marinas and yacht clubs currently have in terms of oil spill response equipment? So what we are asking you is, hey, I'm in Marin County. Do I know my next door yacht club and marina have in terms of booms, absorbents, et cetera, et cetera? So I'm going to give you extra time. We have 65% of people responding. Excellent. All right, so we have 81. Let's see, I'm going to share the results and look at that. So 72% of you, oh no, I don't have any clue. Okay, that's good to know. This is all the information we're going to cover today, so no worries about that. And we have a last poll, let's see, which would be about reporting. So how do you report an oil spill at your facility? So I don't report, but make sure it is prevented in the future. To be honest, I don't know. Thank you for being honest. And a bunch of you, the third option is, hey, National Response Center and the State Warning Center. So tell us, being sincere, we have 60%, 64% participation. I want us to bump it up a little bit closer to the 80, like for the other responses, and then we'll go from there. All right, let me end the poll here. And I know my colleagues, Andrea, Michael, Mike and Anastasia are just taking notes here. Like we're just processing all this information, which is good for us to know. And we have that 73% of our participants today are saying, yes, the National Response Center and the State Warning Center. To be honest, 22% didn't know, so that's okay. And then 4% is saying, hey, I don't report it, but I'm going to make sure that is prevented in the future. So great information just to start this educational workshop today. So having said that, and gathering all this information, we want to tell you why we started this effort working so closely with the Office of Spill Prevention and Response, and why we got to this point. As a result of large-scale oil spill incidents that have happened across the state, efforts have been made to increase communication with marinas, yacht clubs, or boating facilities in general when those spills happen. And as a result, a few years back, we started the Marinas and Yacht Clubs or boating facilities spill response working group, working with the federal state agencies and also city, counties, as well as public-private marinas and yacht clubs. So all of them are represented in this slide. And as a result of that effort, we created different products and had outcomes, including the first one we're going to be reviewing today, which is the boating facilities spill response communication packet that we're going to review today. That toolkit was created including the feedback that we received from colleagues from Yacht, including from yacht clubs, private and public marina. They were the ones who told us, hey, this would be very important for my other colleagues across the state to have access to. In order to disseminate this information, we have been putting together educational workshops, over 22 since 2014, with over 500 participants in order to be able to share those resources with you. And in addition to that, we have been able to work closer together with you in case of spills. Unfortunately, we have had recent spills like in Orange County, in LA, for example, in Marina del Rey. And during those spills, thanks to the work that we did with this working group, we have been able to work very closely with the Office of Spill Prevention and Response. And we have, through our program, being able to disseminate the information to the marinas and yacht clubs in the impacted area, so you guys know what's going on, that the communication is transparent. If the OSPR is setting up as part of the response structure, let's say a decontamination site where they are, etc. So we have been making sure that whatever we discuss in that working group in terms of to increase that communication with you guys is taking place. So having said that, I'm going to start covering the first item in the agenda, and I'm going to turn the presentation over to our colleague with OSPR, Wildlife Officer Anastasia Norris, who's going to bring us from a bird's eye view perspective and talk about the California oil spill response structure. So I'm going to be quiet now and then give a welcome to Anastasia.
Good morning. Andrea, let me know when you're up and running, because I can't see the screen. There we go. I apologize. I'm not in control of my own computer at this point. As previously mentioned, my name is Anastasia. I'm a fish and wildlife fishing game warden or a wildlife officer with the state of California. I work for the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Specifically, I'm assigned to the Office of Spill Prevention and Response. Again, you'll most likely hear that referred to as OSPR. I've been with OSPR since about 2010, and I've done a fair number of responses in both marinas and different yacht clubs. So I'm quite familiar with the typical the way that things are set up and how how they are often run. And once we get this up and running, I will give you a vast overview of how OSPR is set up and how we tend to respond to things.
Sorry, guys, technical difficulties. Pause.
So you'll hear a few different things. We have something called a field response team. Some of you may be familiar with how OSPR works because you may have dealt with us in the past or in the present. So the abbreviations we'll use will be FRT, that stands for a field response team. And I'll go into the makeup of those response teams a little bit further in, but there are 3 separate teams statewide, one for the northern area, one for Central California, and one for Southern California.
We can see your screen, Andrea.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
All right, well, I think we can go past this one and the first one, unless everybody wants my name. Okay, so our department is set up like many state organizations. We report to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, which falls under the California Natural Resources Agency, which falls under the governor. So that's our typical response. We primarily deal with just the Department of Fish and Wildlife, but occasionally we do receive input from higher up, what we call our food chain or chain of command. Go ahead. So our mission is to provide the best achievable protection of California's natural resources by preventing, preparing for, and responding to spills of oil and restoring those affected resources. So not only do we clean it up, we try to get it as close to pre-impact as possible. Next. So there were several key events that were critical to the formation of the Office of Spill Prevention Response. In 1969, Platform A off of Santa Barbara, California, released about 4 million gallons. And that was what is considered typically to be the start of the environmental movement within the state of California, specifically Santa Barbara County. Next. And about a couple of generations later, some of us got to experience the Exxon Valdez. That was an Exxon motor tanker that ran aground in Prince William Sound in Alaska, discharging 11 million gallons of crude oil and impacting wildlife, the seashore, and countless other things. Then California had its own. It's not as well known, but in 1990, so less than a year later, the vessel American Trader ran over her own anchor offshore of Huntington Beach. And she discharged just under 417,000 gallons of crude oil. Next. In response to that, in 1990, the Lempert-Keene Sea Strand Act was presented, and it formed the Office of Spill Prevention and Response. And it gave us direction to mandate, it's more of a mandate than a direction, to clean up petroleum in marine waters. So that thin red line was our only sole jurisdiction for quite some time, until about 2014, when we expanded to inland waters as well as the coastal waters. At those red, white, and blue areas, the red will be the Northern Field Response Team, the white is the Central Field Response Team, and the blue one is the Southern Field Response Team. So if you're in the Southern Field Response Team, you'll see me or one of my colleagues, most likely on a response. And in 2021, we actually ended up getting renewable fuels expansions. So all those biodiesels, which still have a tinge of diesel in them, we now are responsible for overseeing the cleanup of those as well. Next. So what exactly is our jurisdiction? As you can see by the photo, it encompasses quite a slew of things, whether it be railroad incidents, refineries, pipelines, tank trucks on the freeways. Matter of fact, we had a couple of them this week. Vessels, we get a lot of the large vessels that sometimes have issues. We have oil field issues. The one in the lower right corner, that's probably what you're most used to seeing, that lovely rainbow sheen that comes when petroleum makes a very, very thin film on the water. Next. So OSPR is a little different. Most states don't actually have the authority to do both as a lead response agency and a trustee agency. However, OSPR and the Department of Fish and Wildlife are one of the only state agencies in the nation that has major pollution response authority, as well as being the public trustee authority for both wildlife and habitat. Next. So our mandates kind of evolved. Not only do we do pollution response, but we also participate within the incident command structure. And the incident command structure, you'll hear known as ICS. There's specific roles that all of our FRT members fulfill within those. And you notice Andrea said she's a liaison officer. That is a critical component of a pollution response, but it's also a position within the incident command system. And now we've also determined we've become more involved in criminal investigations. Some of the major responses, like the Costco Busan, the Datang, we've had Refugio, those have all been criminal investigations as well, in addition to the pollution response, but those are actually run separately. So the pollution response doesn't know what the criminal investigation is doing. So those are completely separated. Okay. So our functions, we have quite a few. We prevent, we have preparedness, we have response, and we have restoration. And each one of those has a great deal of components within them. Prevention and preparedness, a lot of times it's often our colleagues, the oil spill prevention specialists, who are more involved in that. The response, that's the entirety of the field response team. The restoration, that is where our environmental scientists play a key role. Next. So our field response team, you've heard me mention it numerous times. It is primarily made up of 3 individuals. We have our wildlife officer or fish and game warden. We have an environmental scientist, and we have our oil spill prevention specialist. Each of us brings a different type of breadth of knowledge and expertise to a response. And so that's why the 3 of us are involved on a response. Okay. Go ahead. So a pollution response role for wildlife officers, we do one of 2 things. As state peace officers, we're given the authority to do criminal investigations, but as an OSPR warden, we're actually expected to be the state on-scene coordinator, also known as the SOSC, or the incident commander for a specific response. In which case, we work with the Unified Command, which is often the responsible party, the state, and or the federal on-scene coordinator. And so we all work together to get the pollutants removed and to take the actions to to take care of that particular response. Go ahead. All right, so our environmental scientists, within the ICS structure, they fulfill the environmental unit leader. We also have a wildlife branch director. They also help establish the resources at risk. So for some of you, you may be closer to sensitive sites, and so those would fall under our resources at risk. However, Native American historical sites, cultural sites, antiquities, those also fall under resources at risk. And then they also help with the shoreline cleanup and assessment. And when that happens, they assess the shoreline for impact, and then they help determine how clean it is versus the impact it originally saw. Go ahead. And our oil spill prevention specialists, OSPSs, they get to do a whole slew of things. They are our initial site safety officer, so they make sure everything is safe for the responders as well as anybody in the surrounding area. They're part of the operations staff typically. They'll also help with air monitoring for responders. They will participate in the hazardous waste quantification. So when oil is spilled and released, or gasoline or diesel, we quantify it to determine the amount recovered. And they also work with salvage operations depending on their expertise. Many of them are maritime and pipeline subject matter experts as well. And because of our greater increase with biodiesels, we're actually learning more about tank trucks than we've ever had to know before. And they also work with a causal analysis. So they help determine what caused the release in the first place. Next. So in a unified command, this is what you will typically see. The red highlights the wildlife officer positions with the possible exception of the PIO. That could be somebody based in Sacramento, or it could be one of our wildlife officers. But they're also the investigator, and then as the SOSC. The green highlights those that would be filled by the environmental scientists, and then the yellow are those that would be filled in by our oil spill prevention specialists. And as you can see, they're typically in the operations section or in the site safety officer. So in order for us to know what's going on, we have to get a report. The best way to report it is to call the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, also known as the State Warning Center. That's going to be a 1-800 number or a 1-888 number. In either case, you have 30 minutes to make that call from the determination that there's an event. And then if you can, call the National Response Center. The National Response Center might notify Cal OES, but Cal OES does not notify the National Response Center. Because California has a half-hour time frame, it's best if you can call that first after you make some other notifications or delegate. Make sure whoever makes that notification is available to answer a lot of phone calls and a lot of questions. Go ahead. So our initial actions when we arrive on scene, we'll make an initial site assessment. Typically, it's just one member of the FRT, and they'll request additional responders as necessary. They'll look for site safety, and then they'll also establish a unified command, whether it be with the federal entity and or the responsible party. So as you can see up top, that's actually a marina within an apartment or a condo complex. And so that the Coast Guard did respond to, and then the responsible party, we just did a quick unified command, more just to help them get stuff cleaned up because they weren't sure what they were doing because they were brand new boat owners. And then the bottom is Dana Point Harbor. You can see we have some kind of a sheen working through there. Next. So at an incident conclusion, we help determine when the emergency phase response is over. I'm currently on a response where we're still in the emergency phase because once we leave the emergency phase, OSPR typically no longer has jurisdiction and it gets handed over to a different entity such as a regional water quality board. Our environmental scientists determine the environmental endpoints. So they determine how clean is clean. We will document any environmental damage. And then we move on to the restoration. And that's typically through the Natural Resource Damage Assessment Unit, especially on much larger spills or incidents. And then post-incident issues, a lot of times we'll get together for an after action report, figure out what we could have done better, what went well, that kind of a thing. Or we can also pursue civil litigation. And that's just dependent on any number of factors. As you can see, we had a commercial vessel sink at its slip in the Port of Los Angeles. Are there any questions? That's a lot of information to go over, so feel free to ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them as best I can.
Thank you, Anastasia. So this is a great first overview for all of you to remember how the structure works. I think Anastasia did a fantastic job just kind of showing layer by layer and the different scientists or the different staff within OSPR that are involved in a spill or in a response. Any questions about stuff? So let me tell you, Anastasia, there's a question from Cole. Can you explain what and how transfer of power to Water Quality Board happens? Does OSPR maintain control in a restoration phase?
So a lot of that will depend on where the impact is. This current spill that I'm working on, the impact will go to the Regional Water Quality Board because it's a historical area that's getting impacted continuously. It's on a major street. It goes to the Dominguez Channel. And so what we're doing is what we call a passive recovery phase. So you may not see a lot of people out there, but we still have booms set up because there's a lot of safety issues with putting people into the manholes to clean that particular area. It's just not safe to put somebody down there to clean out. But typically, Regional Water Quality Board, depending on their jurisdiction, if it's a long remediation phase, that is typically when we would pass the baton to them. And it's only after our cleanup endpoints have been met, and then we determine our jurisdiction is complete. This now this fits the Regional Water Quality Board's jurisdiction. And we'll typically bring them in advance, or they'll join in advance so that they're aware of the process. Again, that just depends on the scope of the impact, where it is, the Regional Water Quality Board. There's a lot of factors that actually play into that.
Thank you, Anastasia. We have a question from Kendra Gray. She's at the Sacramento Marine, and she says, can you please repeat the time frame one more time regarding Cal OES? Cal OES does call NRC, but NRC may not call Cal OES, correct? So if you want, I can answer or go ahead.
Yeah, I can go ahead and do that one. So you have 30 minutes for the state of California to notify Cal OES. And what typically happens is the National Response Center will notify the California Office of Emergency Services or the State Warning Center. However, it is not necessarily reciprocal. So the State Warning Center doesn't always call the National Response Center. As a matter of fact, I would just assume neither one of them talk to each other and then make your notifications. That way you have all your bases covered. And so that way you don't have to worry about any kind of issues. And if you're just the only one responding, you make the notification as fast as you can when you're able to within that 30 minutes, if you can do so. And then, we'll work with you. If you can answer, if you're not in the middle of something, great. If you can respond to the plethora of voice text messages you might be getting when you can, and just say, hey, I was in the middle of something, I was setting up boom, we'll totally understand, especially if you're the only person there. We get it.
Thank you,
Can
Anastasia.
I,
For
real quick,
those of you who are here later on, we will cover that information as well as in the toolkit. Yes, Kendra, please go ahead.
just to follow up on that, so the 30 minutes, if, for example, someone reported a spill in the middle of the night, but we don't necessarily hear about it until the morning, does a 30-minute start when we hear about it, or like when it's occurring? Because I mean, sometimes it's not. Do you know what I mean?
No, I understand. So the 30 minutes would start when you find out about it.
Okay.
However, if that individual is reporting a spill to you, they can also call Cal OES. It doesn't have to be
Right.
you. They can do
Right.
it.
Right. But
But
that's doesn't always happen. So
exactly.
typically it ends up with us. But so basically when we hear about it, we just need to call right away.
Correct. Or if you get it when you confirm it, you can always say, hey, it's a potential. And then if it really is, you call back and say, hey, I need to make an update to this report number.
Okay. Thank you.
So a couple of times we've had people not want to, they overfilled their gas tank on the boat and, oh, it was only a couple drops. You have to report that. These people they're afraid to report it because I'm gonna get charged and I'm responsible. No, you just make the notification and then we get the notification and we'll take it from there. So just let those people know, you just don't be afraid to report a spill in the water. Accident's an accident.
Great point, Mike. And one thing that I wanted to also make sure that we highlight is the fact that we all have to remember that if you are the responsible party, meaning a boater, for example, you need to do the reporting, right? One thing is that you guys, of course, are so prepared, are trying to be proactive. So that goes back to the response from Anastasia. But the boaters need to know also the law. And Mike specified, which is pretty important, not every reporting generates a fine. The point that the state and the federal government want us to report is because probably we may impact like a sensitive area or a human-related facility. That's why it needs to be reported. So we have a couple of more questions. Anastasia, for you. We have a voter from Dana Point saying that Dana Point has changed because they're getting a new bunch of boat slips, which is fantastic. Then Jonathan, and hold on for a sec, I'm just trying to make this bigger. And Troy are asking, what if you are the only person who's responding? How does that affect the 30-minute notification?
So the 30-minute notification is still in effect. The minute you can confirm that that's there, go ahead and make your report if you can spare a couple of minutes. And then just be prepared. If I've had plenty of instances where I've left voicemails and then I've gotten plenty of calls back after the fact, and they've been like, hey, I was out there putting out booms, putting out pads. Like, that's totally fine. My biggest thing is, how much do you think really came out and how many slips is it impacting? Have you seen anything else around? So we'll just ask you questions like that. If it's a couple of drops, I mean, depending on what it is, then it goes away. It's not necessarily persistent. It's when you get the high volume amounts, like 42 gallons, 50 gallons, 100 gallons, then that comes a bit more of an issue. And that's often what we see when vessels are becoming submerged or they start taking on water with full tanks.
Excellent. Brenda, I see your question. I'm going to go first to the chat and then to yours based on the time that the questions were asked. So we have Ryan Sanford asking Anastasia, does the 5 elements to a spill have a factor in the response?
I'm not exactly sure what the 5 elements to the spill is. That might be something that Mike can answer. But our response, we take the totality of circumstances into what's going on. And then sometimes, depending on the report, it's worth driving out there. If we have somebody in the area, we'll have them swing by. So it just kind of depends. It kind of depends on the information that we get. Some areas, if it's a derelict or abandoned vessel and it's listed as a potential, we might still go out there because sometimes nobody knows how much fuel's on board. And so it really just depends on a combination of factors, and we'll typically work together as a field response team to determine the response needed.
Excellent. Brenda, go ahead and ask your question. I'm responding to one question in the chat in the meantime.
Okay, thanks. I guess I just have a few clarifying questions. And I think I saw it from the chat as well, but just to clarify, we're calling Cal OES, not our county office of emergency services.
So I think a lot of that would depend on what your response plan says, but you definitely have to notify the California Office of Emergency Services. That's
Okay.
one of those that's written, it's actually codified. So that's something that could actually carry weight with it. Feel free to notify your county of emergency services, but you may not have that time frame like you do with Cal OES.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I think we do after possibly reporting to Cal OES. Then we go to county. And then another question was, this is going to be in response to diesel and gas as well, like gasoline or any diesel or oil that we would be reporting. I guess the scenario for me that I have in mind is we just had like a natural disaster, like in the harbor not too long ago. We get these big, surges, and we have had boats underwater, and after the fact, then we've had like spills that have come out of diesel. So I guess I always wondered, like, some of those things we don't know when exactly it happened. It was just kind of like something that we discover. But I just want to make sure we're reporting a diesel, gas, and oil to Cal OES, right?
Yeah, it's any kind of petroleum. So if it makes a rainbow sheen, that's a pretty good indicator that it's petroleum based. Not always. Some biological scums and some scums kind of mimic weathered sheen looking patterns. But that's definitely something worth reporting. We've had plenty of random things reported to us, and we'll go check them out. Diesel is a little more persistent, so it sticks around a little bit more. Gasoline, that's the nice thing about it being light ends, it kind of off gases pretty easy. So it's not quite as scary. Although people like to boom off gasoline, which from what I've heard is not the smartest thing.
No, and
So
we
careful
have
with that.
Andrea is going to have an exercise about identifying different sheens, but the law is very clear. Anything that causes a sheen on the water is reportable. So that's something that we all need to keep in mind. And later on, we got more questions, Anastasia, that I responded in the chat, basically like, hey, where are the phone numbers? So in the toolkit that we're going to cover next, you will have all that information right there, okay?
Sounds good.
Excellent. Any more questions? Great questions, by the way. And I'm excited to see that you guys don't have you're not shy about asking questions. That's what we want. Don't feel intimidated. Even if you feel like it's a silly question, it's not a silly question, because that means you don't have the response, and that's the goal of these type of workshops. All right. Any question before we move into the next section of our presentation? I'm just going to check all your faces, make sure that everybody is on board. And I see, for example, a couple of you are in a room with other people. I'm just checking by the name of the person who signed. So if you are with others, please let me know in the chat with other people you are with, so I can also properly check you in as part of the workshop. All right. So no more questions, Anastasia, and don't leave us, because probably they will come up. And now, oh, there's a question. Hold on for a sec. Vita is saying, what should you do if there is a gas spill? Good question, Vita, and and good morning. Good to see you. We're going to cover that later on. And of course, Anastasia and Michael can also address the question. So if for some reason we don't respond to that one, remind me, please, and we'll go to your question, but that will be covered later on. Excellent. All right, so let me just take over here. So now what we're going to be doing, and Andrea, can you see my screen? Excellent. All right, so now we're going to be talking about the toolkit. That is where, for example, Sandra asked the question about where are those phone numbers. So let's start with the toolkit. And basically, you can see the first couple of pages of the toolkit that I sent you as one of the handouts. Basically explains why we had the toolkit, why we designed it, and in addition to that, also we are basically telling you the components of the toolkit. We took advantage of these first pages to also make sure that you remember that it's extremely important that you and your staff acquire the appropriate trainings in terms of the hazardous material awareness and the hazardous materials operations, as well as additional trainings that are important. We included the links there for the incident command system courses, just to learn a little bit more about the structure that we have in our state. But it's important for all of you to remember that you and your staff should be taking the hazardous material operations and awareness training on an annual basis. Those are offered by OSHA. This week that I check, they offer in different areas. They are online or in person, so take advantage of those trainings. The following page from your toolkit that we put together, let me continue to emphasize, thanks to the direction that we receive from colleagues like yours, from private, public marinas, and yacht clubs, are the resources that are important for you and your staff to have handy in case a spill happens outside of your facility and you need to know the latest and greatest. So the first resource that we want you to have handy, that's why we ask you in the poll, and as you remember, a high percentage didn't know who your county office of emergency service. This is a perfect homework for this afternoon for you to make sure that you know who your county office of emergency service says contact is. How can you get a hold of that? You can easily basically use your favorite browser and type in the name of your county, followed by the words County Office of Emergency Services. They will be your first line of communication in case a spill happens outside of your facility, for example. It is important that you contact them, that they know that you exist as a facility, and most importantly, ask them if you are listed as part of the county oil spill contingency plan. What we are inviting you to do is to have a dual relationship. It's important for you to be proactive and the county to also reach out to you in case of a type of these spills. Additional resources we want you to have handy, that's why we included in the toolkit, are the website from OSPR. They are very good, as well as with the Twitter or X account. They are pretty good by keeping the public informed and up to date as long as the information is available. Great resources for you to keep handy in your facility. The following handout of your toolkit, really briefly, is about the Office of Spill Prevention and Response Equipment Grant. Our colleague Andrea later on, towards the end of the workshop, is going to talk to us about these fantastic grants, how easy it is to apply, that yes, are mainly for public agencies, but they are creative, and there's a way for you, if you're a private marina, to partner with some of the public agencies to have access to some of these equipment grants. This is the frequently asked questions. It will tell you who can apply and how, the main contact from Andrea, for example, of other colleagues, what kind of training is involved, what kind of equipment, and she will be talking, which is pretty interesting, how the trailers, for example, can be personalized depending on your facility. We're including that handout in your toolkit so you have everything in one place, so it's easy for you to use it as a resource. The following page in your toolkit is how to understand or how to access the latest information about the grantees that have received the Office of Spill Prevention and Response equipment grants. Not only the contact, but also what kind of equipment grant received that particular grantee. Remember that pretty much is not everything your county has in terms of a spill response equipment. For that purpose, this is another reason it is important to contact your county Office of Emergency Service to see what other resources are in your county. And in addition to that, that's why we're highly inviting you to make sure you reach out to your neighboring marina or facility to understand what they have, so we can develop this sense of community based on previous spills that we have faced.
Sean, there's extra coffee if you want some.
I'm going to mute. Please, if you are not muted, I'm going to keep you muted. So hold on. All right. We are also including in this particular website, in this particular slide, the oil spill response organizations, and everything is hyperlinked in your toolkit. These are organizations that respond to oil spill that have been evaluated by the Office of Spill Prevention and Response. So again, these are organizations that provide that particular service. Now, this is the question that we were asked in terms of the important phone numbers. In this particular spill notification and emergency contact numbers resource phone tree, we are including for you and for your staff the required and recommended notification in case of a spill, which is going back to what Anastasia was talking. The required notification, and we included the phone numbers right there, are the National Response Center and the State Warning Center. And we are including the fact that within 30 minutes of the spill, as we discussed already, the reporting should happen. We are also including in the blue box some information for you to remember that we want this 30-minute window, as Anastasia covered, because we want to start the cleanup efforts if needed, so they can begin promptly. And if you are the responsible party, again, we have to remember, we have to do the reporting, but we are also encouraging anyone to see a spill to do the report because it can present a threat to the public health or the environment. So going back to Sandra's question, these are a very good phone tree that we want every single boating facility to have in different locations of your facility and easy to access. So everybody, including you and your staff, are aware of what are those phone numbers. As you remember in the poll, a bunch of you didn't know what the phone numbers are. That really reinforces the fact that these educational workshops are pretty important, and that's why we're sharing this information with you. In addition to the required notification, we are including in the toolkit, as you can see in number 2, the recommended notification. Let's say that you want to notify the different Coast Guard sectors or also your counties. Some of you, if you are not working, Kendra, for example, gave a perfect example. We are including in your resource phone tree if the marine operator, port district, harbor master is not at the facility in the moment that the spill happens, who's the person in charge, and have for you and your staff all the phone numbers up to date. We're also including if you are a public agency or facility, sometimes you have to notify, for example, the city mayor, the city and county officials, among others. Make sure that that list has those phone numbers. If there are oil impacted animals, we're including the Oil Wildlife Care Network, not only website, but also phone numbers important for you to use as a resource. And in terms of additional resources, we are including, again, the link for those oil spill cleanup contractors that I mentioned before, the acronym for OSROs, or Oil Spill Response Organizations, and additional resources that you may want to have handy in this resource phone tree that you need to have in different locations of your facility. So all staff is aware of those are the salvaging companies, additional divers or vessel assist, or nearby boatyards. This list should be updated every 6 months. So we want you to make sure that you have these in an easily and readily available site. In your toolkit, we're also including some of the information when you call, for example, to do the reporting, example, National Response Center that they may ask you. So in order to make your notification smoother and more efficient, you can use this information we're providing you in the toolkit, so you can try to collect all that information. So when you do the call, you are ready with all the data collected rather than going back and forth. And we highly recommend you, when you do the reporting, to always give us a follow-up or a phone contact, your cell phone, because probably you are coming in and out of the facility, going here and there. So cell phones are always the best and most efficient way for to establish the communication. So we just covered all the important required and recommended phone numbers that are needed in case of a spill that is important for you and your staff to have handy. The toolkit also includes information about the third-party claim process for public and private agencies or entities. This is some extra information we want to share with you based on some experiences that we have had that have impacted you guys outside of your facility. As Anastasia clearly educated us, OSPR is the lead agency in responding to oil spills in marine waters of the state, and they work within the incident command system structure, and OSPR can assist the state and local agencies to recover their responsible or response cost. So we're including here some definitions, what kind of cost can be reimbursed as part of this structure. But we are also including information that is the same applicable to the private entities working to file a claim with the National Pollution Fund Center. And in the next page of your toolkit, we are including some samples of a cost that you can recover as part of this process, working with the state and the federal agencies, depending on the case. As part of the toolkit, and based on the feedback we receive from your marine operators who participated in this exercise, it is important that all facilities, yacht clubs, marinas, boatyards, etc., always have a spill plan in place, because you're dealing with motorized vessels who are staying in your facility, or your tenants or members or visitors. Based on the law, if you have a fuel dock, you are required to file your spill contingency plan with your county on an annual basis. Or if you are a facility that falls under the spill prevention control and countermeasure plan, you are required by law to have one of those spill plan in place. Vivian, what are those spill prevention control and countermeasure plan? Those are facilities that have aggregated above ground storage capacity over 1,320 gallons, or completely buried capacity greater than 42,000 gallons. But regardless, if you don't follow within that definition, again, if you are a yacht club, you deal with motorized vessels, it's important that you have your spill plan in place. And in this particular component of the toolkit, we are including for you some of the different steps that spill plan must contain. For example, what happened on the water incident, or what happened if there's an on-land incident. Focusing on the water incidents, the plan should have a clear definition of the different steps, like assess the magnitude of a spill, identify the material that has been spilled, and two things could happen. Could be gasoline or not gasoline. If it's gasoline, let's remember that is a pretty hazardous, volatile, and dangerous situation. As Anastasia clearly explained before, we have to evacuate the area immediately, clear the area, shut off the power, stop the source if possible, and do the reporting as we already talked about. Remember, that's a dangerous situation. Gasoline is pretty volatile and flammable. But if it's not gasoline, you can identify the source, stop the source, contain the spill. Remember, that's why it is important that you keep your trainings in terms of the first responder awareness and first responder operation up to date. Make sure that your staff the same, that you have the required protective equipment, and that when the incident is secure, you can then do the reporting and record all the information, including, for example, if needed, the boat owner operator, registration number, etc. We included in the green box, again, based on the feedback from Marina and Yacht Club operators, part of this working group, some extra information in case you have a bilge contaminated with diesel or transmission fluid or oil and water, and some of the steps. So you can review that information is included here. And we recommend you that you and your staff review this spill plan once a year. So you have also the opportunity to review how good you are in terms of your trainings, among others. One more thing that we wanted to remind you as part of the workshop and the experience that we have had working with you and the working group is that the plans shouldn't be only for spill. It is important that you and your facility also have emergency response plan for different situations, including health emergencies, fires, earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, because those are becoming, unfortunately, more recurrent. These emergency response plans should be placed somewhere in your office in a bright binder that you can easily pull in case you need to start implementing some of these response plans. We want to highlight to please try to keep your plans super concrete, to the point. When we were creating this working group, a lot of the plans were brought to us as samples, and you cannot imagine how thick they were. And it's impossible that during an emergency you go over 10 pages, because that's not going to make any help for you. It is important that you keep it super simple. Some of the components of those plans, and you have it in your toolkit, I want just to emphasize it, include the site plan, making sure that you know what the entry and exit points to your facility are, where the storm drains are, and you can sometimes even get that information from the city, where the structure in your marina is, including the boat launch ramps, the boat washdown areas, or fish cleaning stations, fuel dock, everything clearly mapped and located in your plan, including also power and fuel shutoffs, the different roads, among others. Also, develop a spill response inventory list. Make sure you know where in your facility all the equipment is found. Try to make sure that you know, you and your staff check what you have by quantities, description, also vendors in case you need to replenish whatever you need to use, as well as the different local responding companies. Make sure that you have access to that location of the response equipment. And we recommend you that it's ideal to have at least 2 times the length of the largest vessel of boom to contain a spill, and even consider more quantity in your facility. In the next page of your toolkit, I'm going to highlight to you some of the recommended spill response equipment for your facility. And this emergency plan should also have a detailed description of the personnel that should be involved in the response and what action every single person is required to have during the spill, as well as important phone numbers. And in your toolkit, we are including here as a reference and for you some of those recommended resources for oil spill cleanup, spill kits for you as a facility. We're also including here, and you are very well educated people, the fact that it is illegal to use soaps or detergents or dispersants in case there's a spill on the water. And this toolkit is included in the Office of Spill Prevention and Response. You don't need to worry about anything. Once we're done with the workshop, I'll send you a follow-up email, not only with all of our contact information, so you have it there, but also all these resources, so you have constant access to this information. Thanks to the work we did with the Marinas and the Yacht Clubs, OSPR values you as a partner in this effort. So we created this specific page for Marinas and Yacht Clubs. So just to wrap it up, in terms of the toolkit, really quickly, and as Anastasia mentioned, you are important part of the spill response structure, but you are considered economic sites, and the state and federal agencies in charge of responding have priorities. The first two priorities are human health and environmental protection, and you are the third priority. So you are part of the formula, but of course, because of the long-term impact to the other two priorities, that's why they are the first two priorities. Remember that prevention is the cheapest way to control pollution. Please reach out to your county. Make sure they know you exist. Make sure that you're part of the county oil spill contingency plan. Make sure that you create a sense of community. Reach out to your neighboring marinas and yacht clubs and tell them who you are, what kind of materials you have, and ask them for that. That's a very important lesson that we learned throughout these years. Make sure that you review the plans and you review them during your staff meetings, not only for your trainings, but the components. And we want to invite you to participate in what we call across the state the area contingency plan meetings, which are, and this information will be sent to you. You can reach out depending on your area to these key contacts and tell them, hey, please let me be part of your notification for the plan meetings. These are great meetings where you can get to know the federal and state, county, NGOs, as well as the industry that works towards pollution prevention, in this case about spills. You don't need to participate in all the meetings. It's just for you that they exist, they treat very interesting topics, and we will send you these key contacts depending on your region. Andrea probably later on will talk a little bit about the drill exercises. They have, and we have to be super proud of California, constantly doing drills across the state. You are welcome to join some of these exercises as an observer so you know how they work. That information will be included in your follow-up email. So let me stop here for a sec and check if anybody has any questions. Again, we just covered the toolkit and some of the components, so you have them handy. And when you need to go back to work with your staff, you can review some of this information and make sure, because you all were witness that a lot of you don't have a spill contingency plan in place. That is important to do that homework for your own sake, as well as your surrounding marinas and facilities. Any questions about the toolkit? Yes, Edwin. Feel free to unmute yourself. We can hear you. We cannot hear you. But you're unmuted. That's weird.
What about now?
Good, good, good.
Okay, so I had a question in regards with the California shoreline protection regulations with the over 300 gross ton for the spill response. Because I was looking at some of the stuff for that to become a spill response certified with California Fish and Wildlife for those vessels over 300 gross ton. Is there anything that's weird with that has to do with this? Because it's all spill response.
Can somebody repeat the question? The sound was really bad. I couldn't hear it very well. Sorry, Edwin. It's like there's a lot of background noise there.
Sorry, I'm right next to the boatyard that we have as well.
Yeah, probably.
So there's the California Shoreline Protection Regulations for the vessels over 300 gross ton. So I know that's newer. So I was wondering if there's anything as far as a big difference between that and a lot of this.
Now we'll ask Anastasia or Mike if you know that response, because I wouldn't know that.
I do not
Anastasia?
have I do not have the answer to that.
Mhm.
Edwin, could we get a little more clarification on what you're asking clarification between the new shoreline protection for vessels over 300 gross tons and what you mean by this? This meaning the toolkit that she just went over, or by what we're sharing today about cleaning up spills in the harbor or marina, or?
So I've been looking at trying to look at my facility because there is no other spots here in
Okay.
Monterey County that has this certification. And
Okay.
I have a lot of vessels that are coming in that are over 300 gross ton, which
Okay.
they no longer come in unless they hire the third-party companies, MSRC, or one of them from San Francisco area to come down.
Okay.
And that cost is about $25,000 just to have that company come down, which is a 2 to 3 person team. So I was wondering if any of this, like I know from some of the research, like is there any roadblocks or anything that I should look into in addition to what's already out there that might help with this and that put together?
Are you transferring fuel, or are you doing over the water transfer? What operation are you conducting?
Well, we have a fuel dock and a marina, and we also have a boatyard.
Okay, so I do the small craft refueling dock inspections for Northern Cal, but I don't understand where the over 300 gross ton, are you transferring fuel from shore to that vessel, or what do you?
No, this is a new thing that came in, I believe it was last year, which I was unaware of until I started having one of my regular vessels that go up and down the coast. They're just a pleasure yacht. But they actually got stopped in San Diego because of this, and they weren't sure about it. So coming up here to us when they were reporting that they were coming to Monterey, because we are a protected area.
And the vessel's over 300 gross tons?
Yes.
Yeah, and they have to have a certificate of financial responsibility. They have to have, right, they have to have a certified OSRO. They have to meet all those qualifications in order to enter California waters. Right.
In my waters. Like they can go up to some other areas in California. They don't have to have it because they're not marine protected areas.
Okay. Okay. So we'll have to, can we take, Edwin, if you would do me a big favor, and if we could email you, I want to get with one of our environmental unit scientists that might have some more information on that. I am not a scientist. Anastasia is wildlife enforcement, and Mike's an oil spill prevention specialist. So I want to make sure that we get you the proper information. So I want to capture this. So if you and I could maybe offline this, and I want to really, really capture your question really well. So I will get with you. So if you would please either drop your email in the chat, and then I will email you.
Yeah,
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and Edwin, all of our contact information would be included in the follow-up email. So I'm going to make sure that I include you here in case you forget. I'll bug you so you can send us the response.
I want to make sure that we get you the correct answer, because I think I see where this is headed, and I think we need to talk to a scientist or one of our legislative and regulations analysts about that. And I want to get you the proper answer, because I don't want to speak out of turn on that, and I'm not qualified, so I want to get you the right answer. So if anybody else has that same question, please say something in the chat so that we can include you in this conversation. Thank you, Edwin. That's a great question, and I'm sorry I don't have the answer for you, but I will make sure that we get you the proper answer.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of these workshops, right? Like we don't have to know everything, but that's why we can do the research for you as well and share it with the rest of the team. So based on the agenda, I responded to the chat questions. We're going to take 10-minute break, and we'll be back and then focus on the new case studies. So I'm going to start the timer right now that you can see probably in your screen in the upper corner. So feel free to leave the cameras on or off, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. Andrea, I'm going to send you a chat. doing some time check. We are almost 3 minutes away from starting again. So hopefully you are stretching, having a good cup of coffee or tea, and getting ready in 3 minutes. Okay, less than a minute to start. So please start coming back to your laptops, please, if possible, computers, etc. Welcome back, everybody. So we are ready to come back to our agenda. I'm going to invite Andrea to lead an activity that we have created for you. So I want just to make sure that everybody is back. Again, if you are with other staff, I know some of you have already sent me the names. Let's make sure that I can check you in properly. And Andrea, let me know once you're ready just to launch your activity.
I'm ready to go. You have the poll on your end, yes?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep. So we'll
I'm
start.
ready to go.
Okay, and I wanted for this activity that we're going to create for you, you're going to find, as you see now, a question that is asking you if you can spot the oil in these photos. I recommend you, when you see the polls, to move to scroll down so you see the option for responses, or you can magnify or maximize the window. You may not see us, but don't worry, we're still here with you. So let's give ourselves some minutes, and then I'll make sure that we share the photo. So we would be like, I think it's 3 or 4 case scenarios. And the question again is, can you spot the oil? So in the left or the right or in both, or hey, Vivian, in neither. So we have 46% of the responses. We want just to pump it up to probably 80. And take your time.
Let's see if you have an eye for oil or the environment, or you just like looking at funky pictures.
All right, so I'm going to stop. We have 75% of the responses, and I'm going to share for you, Andrea, the response.
Okay. All right. So not bad, not bad. So Vivian, can you show the photos large again? Is there a way to do that?
No, I cannot.
Okay, that's okay.
I will have to pull another. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. So the photo on the left, the dark black substance, that is in fact oil. So good job to the 29% who caught the oil on the left. The photo on the right, the brown substance that looks like maybe a dirty motor oil is in fact an algal bloom. So that is a growth growing on the water or under the surface of the water, and it floats similarly to oil. It can often be mistaken for oil, but it's an organic material that is not in fact oil. So harmful sometimes, but not oil.
Excellent.
So that is how that went. Oil on the left, algal bloom on the right. Good job, guys. All right, next one.
Mm-hmm. So again, we have another exercise for you. Make sure that you maximize the screen. Can you spot the oil in these photos on the left or on the right? Scroll down so you see the options for responses, and we'll give you a few more seconds to respond, and we'll go from there.
All right, get out your Sherlock Holmes oil hard hats. See who can sleuth this one out.
I love seeing Shelly standing up and just getting closer to the TV. That's so cool.
This is a great division of answering here. I really like that. So right now we have 48% said yes on the left, yes on the right, 9%. 6% said in both photos. 39% think neither are oil. They're thinking this is a setup. So I like the way you're thinking. All right. 6%. 3 of you said yes to both. Congratulations. 3 of you are correct. Both of those are oil. So that spotty one that looks like jellyfish, that's actually oil. It's a little bit tricky, right? So just giving you kind of this broad spectrum of, we don't always know what we're looking at in a harbor or a marina. It's going to depend on, is it cloudy? Is it sunny? What's the product? You know, what's disturbing the water? Is there turbidity? Is it still? You know, so what we're looking at is not always what we have to trust, right? Can we smell it? You know, there's other things that we have to take into consideration. It's not just what we're looking at, but when in doubt, we're going to make that phone call, right? Okay, one more. I think we've got one more. All right, here we go, guys. Is it oil? Can you spot the one that's oil? Again, make sure you're scrolling down so you can see all the options. Okay. One on the left, one on the right, either, neither, both. How are we doing?
Yeah, we
All
are.
right. Here we go. 75%, 80%. All right. Wow. Okay. So we had 16% thought the left was oil, 33% thought the right was oil, 33% thought both, 20% thought neither. All right. Neither. Okay. The left was kelp, also flows a lot like oil, right? It moves with the water. It looks really fluid. It kind of stays. If it disconnects from the bottom where kelp grows and it comes up to the surface, it just kind of moves like fluid, right? And then you have the other one is a mussel bed, but from an aerial photo, it looks dark and suspicious. And so we're capturing these aerial photos. We're like, oh no, that looks like oil. We better go check it out. Then we got to go down there, look a little closer. It was actually a bed of mussels. So looks like oil, not oil. And I think we have one. Is there one more photo, Vivian?
Let me check. 2, 3. I think we are done. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll give you a hint. It's not in our poll, but one of the things that can help you if you're, and I don't encourage you just doing science experiments, but if you notice that there's a sheen on the water and it separates and stays separated, it might not be oil, right? But if it separates and comes back together very quickly, it's probably a petroleum-based product, right? So those are one of those hints that you can use to help. According to NOAA scientists, that's one of the things that they use to help determine whether something is an oil product or just like a suspicious, otherwise organic sheen that might be on the water that may or may not be oil. Now, again, the whole caveat to that exercise is, and thank you all for participating, I hope you enjoyed it, is that if you don't know, call, right? That's our job to come out and just go, Mike's going to come out, Anastasia's going to come out, they're going to come out and they're going to, or a scientist, or FRT, that's their job. The field response team is going to come out with an environmental scientist, a warden, and an oil spill response or a oil spill specialist, and they're going to come out and that's their job to determine, is this oil? Do we need to take action or is no action needed? That's their entire job. That's what they do when they're on call. Call them. That's what we do. So make your notifications, call the National Response Center, call OES. They will reach out to us. We'll show up and we'll say, absolutely good call. Definitely a petroleum product. We're going to take action. Or nope, that's not, or it's vegetable oil, or it's, it's build, whatever the case may be. Thank you for making the phone call. We really appreciate it. That's our job, right? Don't worry about making the call. We have work to do. We want to get paid. So make the phone call. So that's it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you participating. So on that note, we want to actually turn it over to the real expert, Mike Caligari. He's been doing this for a really long time. So bear with me. Was having some technical difficulties earlier. I hope I've worked those out. And if I haven't, roll with it. We've been doing this for a long time since COVID. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There is a video in this presentation. I hope we have this all set up so you guys can hear it. Let me know if you don't, and I will.
And we have a question in the chat that will cover Joe after Mike's presentation. And Andrea, don't forget to share the sound and let me know if you need any assistance.
Okay. I have lost my mouse, guys. Hold on just a second.
So I'm going to be, you guys can just raise your hand. You guys can turn your mic on. I'm going to be asking questions of you guys to see what your response is on how you guys would handle certain situations. So just unmute and then mute back when you're done answering the question.
Can you see?
Yeah, we can see. Just move, please, the gray box on top of the right corner of your logo. That's the only thing we need to move. That's it.
I have these. Hold on just a second. Oh, come on.
And again, for the entire team, just highlighting what just Michael said, this is going to be the real case scenarios and we want your participation. So please make sure that there's plenty of participation.
Okay.
So somebody had
all the boxes gone. Can you see the presentation?
No, we can't.
Okay, I think it got lost. Hold on, guys. I think I lost you for a minute. Just a minute.
Somebody in the text asked if there was any test, we do analytical and we'll take samples. That's the only way we can tell if we're not sure, we'll take a sample and send it off for analytical. And then they'll come back and fingerprint it or tell us if it's a petroleum product or not. That's about the only testing that we can do.
Andrea,
All
we
right.
can see your presentation. Perfect.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
great.
good.
We're ready to go, Mike, when you're ready.
Okay, go ahead. So this was Humboldt Bay this year when I was on call. We got the call. So for you, the harbor masters or the marinas, you guys, this is an outer slip. So where would be the best place to place the boom on this vessel? Would you put it at the mouth so it doesn't go out to the harbor? Or how would you guys handle this?
I would say that we would put the boom around, like to extend outward, like where that sheen is, like enough to go like out and around the vessel.
Yeah, so you have to for one thing, like you said, see where the outer perimeter of the sheen is, and then make the assessment. And most harbors don't have hard boom, but the sausage boom is fine. But you have to watch the absorbent pads, those flat pads, because a lot of times they'll float and they go underneath the sausage boom, and then all of a sudden you have pads everywhere, all throughout the harbor because wind, tidally influenced, and so you just have to be careful when you're using pads. And like we were saying earlier with the Anastasia, or Anastasia, you don't want to boom gasoline. And we had the next slide. Go ahead, go to the next slide. So this was in Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh Marina just last month, in February. And this was an inner slip. So we put the boom around, and you can just encapsulate the whole slip. And it was pretty windy, so there you don't see any pads there. We just used sausage boom. And by the time I got there, they had already refloated it. It was sunk. It was sunk all the way up to the cabin. So they already they had dewatering pumps in it, and it was pretty much handled. So go ahead, go to the next one. This was in I live in Pittsburgh, and so I handle Benicia, Martinez, Bethel Island, Stockton. I handle the whole Delta, and this was in Bethel Island. So this is an unknown, and we got the call, and on I just got a Cal OES report because I'm on call. And when you make these reports with Cal OES, it says the caller stated an unknown amount, an unknown oil. They weren't even sure. And so they'll ask you, the Cal OES report taker that's filling out this form will ask you, do you know a source? Do you not know a source? So if it's unknown, that's okay. And this was that case. It was an unknown sheen, but you'll see in that left picture across, there's an island there, and that's a sensitive site. So we
Sorry, Mike, I'll get it.
that's okay. So the marina put out hard boom, the yellow boom, and it was a 8-inch hard boom, harbor boom, and they put it out to keep the sheen from reaching the island across the water. So, okay, there we, yeah, right there. Well, right, go back.
Oh, okay.
So the boom came from that we have hard boom. We have strategically staged boom in grant trailers throughout the state, and they actually grabbed this one from the Pittsburgh fire station, Station 85 at on Love Ridge. They have one of our trailers, and the Contra Costa Fire took the boom trailer over there. They launched their boat and they put it in. So in a lot of these cases, we depend on you guys. You guys are the first responders. You guys are until we get there and until the fire department gets there. And the fire department has the experience to put this boom in the water with the fireboat. So this was an unknown cause, and it was about 90 degrees, 85, 90 degrees. So it off gassed and flashed. And the next day, it was like there wasn't even anything in the water. So yeah, let's go to the video next.
Okay, I'm probably gonna have to reshare it. Just a second.
That's okay.
I can probably, Mike, get a couple of questions from the chat at the meantime.
Okay.
Ruth is asking if the contaminant is gasoline, how long should the boom and or absorbent pads be left on the water? My understanding is with oil, you can see the color in the pads after absorption, but they're an indicator in the pads for gasoline.
So no, it'll get dirty, but we typically don't like to boom gasoline because of the flammability, and you're containing gasoline that's highly volatile. So like I said, it was a nice day in Stockton or Bethel Island. So it just the next 12 hours later it was gone. Like it wasn't even visible. So and with oil, when you put boom in the water, the sausage boom especially, it'll get black. So you have to the Osro will rotate it out and dispose of it. And you have to remember, this is hazmat, so you have to dispose of it properly. You guys remember what Osro stands for? Anybody?
Yes, we talk about that, people. All spill response organizations, right? Remember all
Oil
the
spill
contracts.
removal. Yep. So you have to have an EPA ID number. You can't just take the stuff and you can't put oiled pads, boom, anything contaminated with oil. You cannot put it in household garbage. We were on a spill, and me and the scientists were standing there overseeing the operation, and a guy came with a bag with sausage boom in it that was contaminated, and he's putting it in his trunk. And we caught him, and we're like, "What are you doing?" I'm taking it home. I'll just put it in the garbage. No, that's hazmat. You cannot do that. You have to dispose of it properly. I can't emphasize that enough. Dispose of it properly. Let me see. Any more questions, Vivian?
No, Mike, and then Ruth, that's why in the toolkit we had a specific section about gasoline, and we want to continue to emphasize, please be super careful with gasoline. It's not a fun situation. And I think we're going to take questions after, because we're running a little bit behind a schedule here.
Okay.
So let's watch the video and then continue and then take some questions.
Perfect.
I'm trying.
It's okay.
Nope. Okay, guys. We may have to skip the video. Sorry, I'm not sure why it's not playing now.
Yeah, I played it last night. I mean, it worked fine when what you emailed me, and I don't know why I can't open it on my computer. I have two screens, and it's not
Yeah.
letting me open the video. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, let's just move
Okay,
on.
but maybe Mike, maybe talk about what happens when there is a fire and when we come in and how
So
we evaluate after.
So yeah, the fire department, this was in Alameda, at the Marina Village Yacht Harbor, and I think three boats wound up. They were all moored next to each other, and the fire department, once they finished their first response, we come in and the harbor master, and they'll try to put some boom out. We try to contain. There's a bunch of debris in the water from the boat that burned, and then each boat on each side burned. So, is there anybody on from Marina Village, Yacht Harbor? Um, but so, yeah, and then we'll try to get, once we get the or the fire department gets the fire extinguished, we'll try to get hard boom around 5 or 6 of the slips to keep any of the debris getting to the other boats also, because it'll stain, and whatever fuels on the boat was in there. I think there was some diesel fuel, and then there was some hydraulic fluid. So yeah, it's a process that you could be there for 2 or 3 days. So okay, keep go to the next slide. I wish we could get that video up, but that's okay. So let me see. That's well, that's the hard boom on the left. They're deploying that, and a lot of times you'll put a string of pads, and then you'll put sausage boom on the inside, or you can put it on the outside as a double barrier to absorb that much more petroleum product. And then the far right picture was Refugio. I was there for 4 months during that spill. I wasn't with Fish and Wildlife. I was with another company. I was with an Osro. So um, and you want to go over some questions, Vivian? Or you want to just cover these slides?
I think let's cover the slides and then we
Okay.
have a couple of questions.
Perfect. So I recommend that the middle picture is a 95-gallon overpack. And I see a lot of marinas, they take those, you can get those at any, you can get them at Granger, and they put at the end of each finger or every other finger, you don't have to put on each one. Use that as a spill kit, or you can use the boat, the bottom right one, the oil spill kit, uh, as a put sausage boom in there, put some gloves, put some PPE in there, some Tyvek, and and have those ready, and anybody can access them. All because most marinas are open 24 hours, and if there's a spill, then people know that that's the spill kit, and they can get some sausage boom out. They can put some gloves on. You don't want to put your hands in oil. You want to have the proper PPE so you don't get contaminated. And then the far left picture is one of our grant trailers that has most of them have 1,500 to 2,000 feet of boom, so you can pull it out, and there's PPE. There, the front half is loaded with the PPE, the anchors, and the floats, so you can anchor the boom, and then yeah, that's about it. Covers that. So applied response technologies, there's California, actually, the first one, number one, in situ burning. We don't, we'll do in situ burning. We were gonna do it in Suisun, in the Suisun Marsh. Kinder Morgan had a spill a few years ago, and we were gonna do in situ burning, and that's where they put fire boom around it. It's not yellow, it's black, it's fire retardant, and it won't catch fire. And then I did in situ burning in Deepwater Horizon, and that was in 12 miles off the in Gulf of Mexico. But the EPA wound up turning this one down in California. Because they look at air quality, they look at local regulations, and if somebody's going to inhale the fumes from the burn on top of the water, then they won't do it. Number two is oil spill cleanup agents. Those are pre-approved agents that are used for cleanup. And phase one is the gross cleanup, and then you're going to have phase two is after the gross cleanup. It turns into a minor, and that's surface washing like they did at Exxon Valdez. They were pressure washing and stuff. So the oil spill cleanup agents, that's the OSCA. Those are some of the approved. They have to be pre-approved. And then you guys are familiar with the absorbents. I'm reading my notes. Sausage boom pads, and then the solidifiers. You have to. They're very expensive, and they have to be contained in a sock, and then they'll absorb the oil, or it's a sock or a mesh. So they're very expensive, and those aren't going to, unless the responsible party is going to pay for it, that probably won't get approved. And then again, the Kinder Morgan spill, they were using bioremediants, and it's feeding microbes into the oil, and then they multiply, and then they eat the oil. So it's like a fertilizer, and then they'll attack the oil, and that's how it's eliminated. And then you see the guy on the far lower right, he's pressure washing the boat ramp. And yeah, they're collecting pads on the upper right. So go ahead. So there's a marine contingency plan, and then there's the geographic response plan for inland. Most of the Bakersfield will have a inland plan for the oil derricks, and then the marine. Obviously, the marine plans are anything in this area here: Pittsburgh, Concord, the weapon station, and Benicia. So, and the whole Bay, well, for that matter, the whole Bay Area. So just remember one thing: make that call. Make that call. I don't know if you guys have this pamphlet, but it's the Cal OES, and it's the notification guidance. So make the call, try to contain it, figure out where it's coming from, where the leak is coming from, and you'll see that bottom right one. You can tell that's red dye diesel. The pads are all red. They come white. So you'll know that it's diesel, and try to plug when you're controlling it, a lot of times there's each fuel tank is going to have a vent. So the OSRO or the cleanup crew will come in and plug those vents to keep it from coming out of the tank. And then you start the remediation and the cleanup and collecting all the bags and all the contaminated. The boom has to be deconned. So go ahead. So when you on the communication, when we get the notification and you guys are making the call to Cal OES, they're identifying, the risk to the environment, to anybody in the marina. You have to protect yourself, proper PPE, and then and they're making all these notifications. You either call 911, Cal OES, National Response Center, the marina, the harbor master, and then once all of the communications have been done, the RP is going to get a hold of, or somebody's going to get a hold of the cleanup contractor to start the process. Safety, you have to be careful. If most, when you're containing it, if you're obviously in a boat, you have to have a life jacket, a PFD, and a lot of times within 6 feet of the water, if anybody's coming close, you have to have a life jacket on if you're on the dock. There's a lot of slips, trips, and falls. You'll see right there in that picture, right behind that boat, you see those lines on the dock. So, and then the gasoline, once again, you don't want to boom highly volatile, flammable gasoline. Let it flash off. And then there's the cost recovery and the cost of the cleanup. A lot of times insurance will cover it, the boat owner's insurance. And sometimes we've had boat owners come up with us with a credit card, say, here, I'll pay for it. And so, next. And then you have to stop the release. So, oh, there we go. Plug the fuel vents, remove the fuel, sting the tanks. What I do is I try to figure out, I talk to the boat owner and find out when the last time he fueled and how far did he go and use, how much that fuel did he use. And then they're right there in that picture, they're dewatering the vessel, pumping it off. And most of the time you have to dewater a vessel inside containment. You can't just let it go out into, and they have there's yellow sausage boom right there in front of the vessel. So then there's, divers, the salver, they're doing a safety brief, looking at the risks, seeing if we had one vessel sitting on a slope at an angle. So, they have to consider the risks of, is anybody going to get hurt? What's the risk factor of them going down under the water and trying to bring the vessel back up. Dewater, damage control, repairs, trying to figure out where the leak was, if it leaked, if the sea chest was open. And then you got decon. You have to do decontamination inside of containment, and then that's has waste. So it has to be disposed of properly. Once again, disposal into a vac truck or something. These were, let me see if I recognize any. That one upper left is like near Willow Berm in the Delta. I don't recognize those other ones, but yeah, you can see the boom. They placed sausage boom with the blue tarp. Oh, that one, yeah, that one was in like Bethel Island, that one with the blue tarp. They encapsulated the boat, the sailboat in the blue tarp, and that's how they contained, and that was the owner's idea. So, yeah, you have to, I quantify those barrels and the totes on the left. We quantify and we find out how much was released to the environment, and then we um, give it to legal, and they'll come up with an agreement or a cost. And then sometimes the EPA is involved, Coast Guard's involved. We work with Coast Guard and the NPFC, National Pollution Fund Center. And then you got media. We have PIOs who handle that, and then we handle the contractor, and we work with the contractor. But with waste management, you have to have the proper way to dispose of this. That you have to. Next. Oh, that's it?
I know you're excited to talk about this topic, and we have some questions. I found the video. Let's see if I can share the video and correct me if, hold on. Let me see if I can just, hold on for a sec. I'll make sure that I can share the screen here. Andrea, if you can, I'm going to stop you sharing the screen so I can share here. Mike, is this the video? This is,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So it doesn't have like the sound is just like people walking. It's not a news, but it's just showing the entire situation. So I'm going to reduce the volume in case you have any explanation or you wanted to cover something in particular about this one.
So I've been on some of these spills when there was an active fire. We just stay away because you see how tight the dock was and how there's not enough room for the firefighters. You got 5 or 6 firefighters with hoses, and the hoses are pressurized. It's chaos. So we just let them do their job, and then once they tell us, hey, the scene is clear, we're good. You guys can do what you need to do, and that's when we call in. By then the Osro was already called, but yeah. So,
So we have few questions, and I know we're running a little bit behind agenda.
Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. We can adjust, and there's so let me just go up to here. Okay. So Mike, it's a question from Vita. What is the preferred method for a gas spill if not containing with boom?
So depending on the amount, you just have it. Yeah, it's a case by case, because if it was an overfill and they were filling their boat and they weren't paying attention, they're talking to somebody, and 5 gallons comes out, then, like I said, highly volatile. Gasoline is highly volatile, and you just have to be careful, because any ignition source, the atomized fuel can catch fire. So, Anastasia, I don't know if you have anything on that, but you just have to be very careful with gasoline. Diesel has a higher flash point. So the flash point for diesel is like 212 degrees or something. You can put a match in there and it won't light. But gasoline, the same thing. It'll flash up. So we just if it's a nice day, let it off gas.
Yeah, definitely let the gasoline off gas. The issue is actually the vapors.
Yep.
If you get just the right amount, it can cause explosions. and folks have had plenty of those happen. I think we've had a couple of them, and we had one in Huntington Harbor. We've had a couple of them around that people have gotten injured, and so far so good, not too many fatalities, but that's always also a possibility. So
Yeah.
Gasoline's one of those things we'd rather just stay back.
Yeah. And again, that's why we put a specific section as a team in the toolkit, so you guys can continue to remember that. We have Brenda is asking a question about, I'm curious about renewable regulations, diesel spills, and if they should be boom off just like oil spills, or if there is an issue with booming off diesel to contain it from spreading.
No, there's no like I said, diesel is a little different than gasoline. We've boomed in Rio Vista. We just had a case, and a big boat sank in Rio Vista, and we boomed just to keep it from getting into the Sacramento River. And it's not gonna it's not as high of a threat, but it's not going to flash off and off gas like gasoline does. So we boom it, we contain it, and you saw a couple of the videos with the boom was red, so that was red dye, and so we definitely don't have a problem with booming diesel. For sure, just go ahead and boom it to be safe, and keep it from. In this case, we didn't want to get in the Sacramento River.
Have you boomed renewable fuels yet, Mike?
I have not.
Okay, so we're not sure
Anastasia,
yet,
have you?
Anastasia?
I think it's probably very similar if it's diesel.
Yeah.
Typically tends to be biodiesel. There's a fraction of that, or a small percentage of those biodiesels that still have conventional diesel in them. But it would have a very similar flash point. So those can be boomed. I don't think that'd be an issue. If it was like E95 gasoline, probably not, because of both the ethanol and the gasoline problems.
Okay, we have 2 questions related from Cole and Kendra. Can you go over again how to identify whether a spill is gas or oil?
So oil is gasoline is going to be a rainbow sheen, and oil. I mean, oil is going to have a thicker viscosity and a thicker consistency than gasoline. Gasoline is thinner, so you'll know if you have oil versus gasoline.
If you're unsure, make a phone call. If you're not sure whether to boom it, don't boom it, make the phone call and call somebody out, right? Like, don't take risks. Safety first. That is our primary motto, right? Safety first of humans and on down. So if you're not sure, make a phone call.
Yeah, but you'll know if it's like I said, the consistency and the viscosity of oil is a little thicker than gasoline. So
we have a couple of more questions. Brian is saying, I work in a waterway community with hydraulic transit locks. Booms or pads for hydraulic leaks are recommended.
hydraulic oil, you can use both sausage boom, pads, hard boom, harbor boom, just to contain it. But if it's in a lock, what's the current, is the current, I don't know how many knots the current's going. If it's moving pretty quick, then hard boom, it's gonna entrain. So but yeah, you can use sausage boom, use pads just to try to get it up.
And the last question we're taking, again, is from Cole, saying, when a vessel is sinking or sunk, but cannot see a sheen on the water yet, what is first containment action? considering you don't know if it will be gasoline, oil, diesel, should you boom always?
Yeah,
Anyways.
just if you have a sunken vessel and it hasn't started sheening yet, go ahead and boom it because you don't, it's an unknown. So go ahead and boom it. But once you, because the engines have oil in them, there's a crankcase, there's some boats have hydraulic systems for steering. So if there's an unknown, just go ahead and put some sausage boom around the pier and until it's, because if it's sunk and it hasn't started leaking, maybe it's not gonna. We've had boats not even release anything, so you never know. But yeah, go ahead and boom it.
Excellent. So what I want to invite everybody, because this is a great discussion, is to let's wrap up the last presentation from Andrea. And then we can stay for additional questions. We will stay here as a team. I know some of you have other things to do, but we can stay here longer for additional questions. So Andrea, go ahead and start your presentation, please.
Okay, guys, Andrea Moore, Fish and Wildlife OSPR again. I don't know why the gremlins are all in my computer today, so apologies in advance. But I am the grants coordinator, or one of the grants coordinators here at the Department of Fish and Wildlife Office of Spill Prevention and Response, OSPR. I work with Cindy Murphy, who is our tribal liaison, and she does grants for our native tribes here in California. So she is my counterpart, and today I want to talk to you about our oil response equipment grant trailer program. And this program uses funding to provide trailers that are chock full of response equipment to local government entities, and they are stationed throughout the state of California. These are pre-staged equipment. They serve as like a Band-Aid for initial response actions while we wait for the major contractors or OSRO's oil response contractors to get there to do the major cleanup work, right? So we're going to boom off maybe a major economic site or something important while we wait for the OSROs to get there and do the big work. So the objective is to provide these grants to our local government partners. That's going to be your counties, cities, port districts, fire departments, Native American tribes, public utility districts, emergency management departments. So how do we rate who's qualified? You send in an application, then myself and an OSPS like Michael would come out and we would do an interview. We'd evaluate your situation. We're going to look at your proximity to waters of the state. Are you near a river, creek beds? Are you near highways that have a high turnover rate where we're having rollovers that are also impacting waters of the state? Are you near the ocean? Do you have, lakes of that nature, something near waters of the state? Do you have economic sites to protect? How close are you to the next trailer or other oil spill response resources? And it's okay if you have another trailer near you, if you have a high incident rate in your area. It's okay to have multiple trailers if there are a lot of incidents in that particular region. And then your willingness to keep this trailer available to the Office of Spill Prevention and Response for one of our oil spill prevention specialists or one of our wardens to come scoop it up with their truck and take it to an incident and share those resources with us if you're not available to assist at that time. And then what we look at when we come out and evaluate your area is, do you have the ability to deploy the equipment? Do you have enough personnel? Do you have a boat so that you can do on-water booming strategies? Are you financially able, or are you physically able to maintain the trailer? Maintaining the trailer is up to the grantee once they receive the trailer. So that includes and is not limited to keeping up registration, making sure the tires are maintained, replenishing any used or damaged equipment. There is a caveat to that in maintenance, and that's on occasion, if there's money at the end of the year in our budget, we are sometimes able to provide a small replenishment grant to help replace maybe 500 feet of boom or sorbents, or if you need new nav lights, something of that nature. So we are able to provide some additional assistance. So funding. In 2008, we were able to expand current law for Assembly Bill 2031 in the Lempert-Keene C-Strand Act, which includes our local assistance funding under the Oil Spill Prevention Act fund, which is our budget for all of our grants. And in that program, initially, all of our trailers came kind of one size fits all. So it was the exact same equipment. There were no asks, there was no menu to pick from. It just came as is. They built it exactly the same for everybody. And at the time, those trailers topped out at about $25,000. And now in 2024, these trailers are more customized based on the needs of the marina or harbor and whatever waterways that they have access to. And the grants are now, like I said, up to $45,000. We typically fund about 3 to 4 grants a year. That's based on the amount of funds that we get in the budget and also how many applications we receive throughout the year. This is codified, this grant. It is in our legislation, so we are able to offer these grants every year, and we have been able to expand this again to our Native American tribal partners in the state, which has been a wonderful program. What comes in the trailer? So it's different, right? Now we're able to customize these trailers based on the location. There are 2 different trailer sizes. We have a 7x12 trailer or a 7x16 trailer to start. And as Michael said earlier, they often have between 1,500 and 2,000 feet of boom. We can go down as low as 1,000, depending on if you have like a creek and you're just walking boom across, or if you have larger areas to cover. If you have a marina or a harbor and you're going to be booming off larger vessels, you'd have up to 2,000 feet of boom. You're going to have your mobile nav lights that you can put on your boom for nighttime operations to keep boats from driving over your in-water boom. You're going to have your Danforth anchor and your buoys there. We have plenty of sorbent pads and sausage boom. There's PPE, first aid kit, generators, often portable lights for nighttime operations. So it's fully customizable. We kind of have this menu of things that you can pick from. And Mike, as the expert, would come out and say what type of boom you need for the type of waterways that you're operating in. And he and I would work together to determine what exactly would be best to customize in your specific trailer for you. So what happens if you're not a public entity, right? So you're not a public utility, you're not an Office of Emergency Management, you're not a sheriff's department, you're not a local fire department. You can work with one of those entities as a private marina, private harbor, yacht club. And if you work with one of those to apply and they send in the application and you work with them to stage the equipment nearby, then you guys can work together as a partnership to still apply for the grant. They're awarded the grant, you stage the equipment. We're fine with that. We're fine with working together that way. So if you discover that you could make use of the equipment, but you're unable to apply because you're not a public entity, please reach out to your local governments there in the area. Let them know that you'd really like to make use of this grant, work with them on the application process, reach out to me, and we can talk about who in the area might be best for you to reach out to. My contact information will be coming out to you as we and wrap this up. And then what comes with the trailer? So when we deliver your trailer, once it's all put together, it takes about a year for them to build the trailer out and get all the process done. They build them custom and then they order all the products and get those in and fill out the trailer for you. When they deliver the trailer, they provide you with an 8-hour training course. That starts with like a 4-hour shoreside training. They're going to go over equipment familiarization, what comes in your trailer, what's its purpose, how does it all work together, where it goes, how to take care of the equipment, how to maintain it, and then some health and safety surrounding your equipment, being mindful of pulling boom out of the trailer, slip, trips, and falls, right? Handling line, things of that nature. And then once that's completed, the shoreside training is completed, then somebody like Mike Caligari would take you out in a vessel, as seen in the photo at the bottom, and they're going to show you booming strategies for your specific area of operation. So maybe your particular economic site is a ferry that comes in and out of your harbor, and that's your most concerning economic resource in your harbor. So Mike is going to show you how to boom off that, or he might show you strategies out in the middle of the harbor, or he might show you how to boom off a pier, or how to connect two booms with two boats out further out in the harbor. So these are things that are offered to you that comes with your trailer. And then ongoing support. So we don't just dump off a trailer and then leave you alone. As you can see in the photo there in the upper right-hand corner, that is our Mike Caligari there giving a training to our Sapphire company. They were awarded a trailer a few years ago, and we go out and see them about once a year and offer them refresher training. So it just refreshes them on the equipment familiarization. They have turnover like any agency. They have new staff that come in, and staff that have been trained on it have moved on or moved out or moved up. And so we bring in our staff like Mike and Tito, and they come in and they offer training on the what the equipment is capable of, the safety aspects of it. Again, we do a quick shoreside training on all of these things, safety, what to look for, things that happen to boom when it's in the water, looking for entrainment, planing, things of that nature. And then Mike will take folks out in a boat and teach them again booming strategies in the water. The photo that you see in the middle is a map of California. We have 80 plus trailers staged throughout California. So one of the things we do annually is that we reach out to folks and say, have you moved the trailer? Is it staged in a new area? Has our contact person changed for that? And we reach out to you to get that information updated once a year. And then again, the replenish grants. If you happen to have used your sorbents, or you need new PPE, or you've used your boom and there was no responsible party, it was a mystery sheen, and you need to replenish that. If there's funding at the end of the year and we're able to offer you a replenish grant, you would work with me and apply for that. It's a simple application. And once we have that information, we can work to get you possibly 500 feet of boom or some more sorbents, replenish your PPE, get you some life vests, whatever we need to get your trailer back stocked. But again, that's if funds are available. If not, the onus to replenish and maintain the trailer falls on the grantee. Some things of note, I just wanted to cover real quick. There are places that you can go to replenish your equipment that we do not cover for you. You order the information, and that's West Marine is a company that offers supplies. You can order a lot of these kits on Amazon now. Uline, Granger are some places where you can order these spill kits. The bucket full of stuff that Mike had in his PowerPoint presentation are offered at a lot of these places. A quick Google search will get you what you need often. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on that Vivian mentioned earlier is our drills and exercises teams. These are not covered under our regular deployment exercises or drills, but I know some of you would be interested in observing drills for OSPR. If you would like more information on that, you can visit our website. We do about 160 tabletop and equipment deployment drills, very similar to what you see here in the refresher training, where we deploy boom strategies to test to make sure that everything that the plan holder says they can do is able to be done in order to protect our resources here in California. So that's about it on my end, and I can take questions. I'm going to stop sharing so that you guys can.
And I can, a couple of things that I wanted to highlight, and I saw the questions which were already responded. In the toolkit that I already reviewed with you, there's the link for you to see the current Office of Spill Prevention and Response grantees. So if you click there, you will see all the resources and the current grantees. Then we had a question for you about, hey, I'm a yacht club, and how can I get a small spill kit? We covered that already. There are different brands out there. They range, depending on what you want to include in your spill kit, between $500 to $900. if you're a private company. But let's remember also that we included in the toolkit the list of the recommended items that you should have in your spill kit, and also the fact that we included as a recommendation twice the length of the largest vessel in terms of boom. If you're looking for larger boom, if you're looking for the small spill kits, go and look for those online, if using as a reference the list we provided to you. So those were the questions that you, Andrea, responded. Again, even if you're a private a party, don't feel discouraged. Thanks to these workshops, Andrea and her team have been able to provide great amount of trailers, and they have been able to also, because they are creative, Osper is created, just to find the way for you to build up your partnership with your public agency. Even tell them sometimes they don't have a space to hold the trailer. Hey, I can hold it here and let's partner, but you apply. Andrea is super creative, super responsive. She will be able to work with you on that. Let me stop there for a sec, and let's see if there are any questions before we wrap it up. We are stealing 5 more minutes of your time just to fulfill the agenda. But of course, we want to give you, as we said at the beginning of the workshop, plenty of opportunities for you to ask questions. And in the follow-up email, no worries, our contact information will be there. And in addition to that, the links for the contingency, Bay Area contingency plan meetings, and also the spill drills. So you will have everything there. There's a question, is there any federal or state-funded HAZWOPER trainings programs available? That's from Charlie. Unfortunately not. That's what I mentioned at the beginning when I was talking about the require. I checked yesterday, and OSHA offers those. They are approximately $200, which in my opinion, I know that not everybody has, especially with this economy, a lot of the money right now, but is on the preventive side. I think for the comprehensive work training that you get is a pretty good deal for the first responder operations and the first responder awareness. Any questions?
I have
Okay, I got whoever was going to ask the question. We have Cole who asked another question, so I think it's Brenda. You wanted to ask a question. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to confirm for the public agency I work for, Andrea, I was going to be interested in just making sure I could reach out to you. I think we already have a trailer, and I usually stock it, but I'm curious to see if you have a list of maybe additional things that I can be stocking it with, or making sure that I have that in there. And then 2, going about maybe getting our harbor patrol and staff a refresher training on the like for the moving strategies, all that, kind of like I saw Sacramento Fire do.
Absolutely. Let's talk. Let's talk.
And that's the beauty also of the workshop, that you get connected to the experts. So you will have in your email our contact and email, so you can continue to ask questions as part of your continuous education. We got a question here, and I think would be for either Anastasia or Mike. It says, can we review the roles of each agency or how they interact in case of a spill, like Coast Guard versus OSPR versus contractors?
I'll handle that one. So OSPR takes on the role as the state on scene coordinator. So we oversee things from the state aspect, whether it be state waterway, like a river or a stream, or even an ephemeral water like stream bed or storm drains, versus federally navigable waterways. If it's a federally navigable waterway, the federal agencies such as the Coast Guard may also show up and arrive, and they will be representing the federal aspect of it. The responsible party still has a say in what's going on in the unified command, since they'll probably be the ones footing the bill. They have a say in what's going on. The contractors are often, especially if it's an OSRO, most of them have worked with Osper long enough that they know what our expectations are for how clean is clean and how to clean things up. Makes it a pretty cohesive unit to work with. And if it's a newer Osro, most of them have guys from other Osros that have filled, so they still carry on that knowledge. So the contractors are basically the operations, the boots on the ground. They're the ones doing the actual cleanup. But the unified command and the incident command structure will kind of dictate how they clean things up. Hopefully that makes more sense.
Yeah, that was pretty well explained again. Thank you, Anastasia. So we can take a couple of more questions, and if not, while people, I know some of you have to leave. Thank you, Vita. I'm going to include in the chat right now the link to our evaluation form, which will be included also in the follow-up email. Please take a couple of minutes of your precious time to give us your feedback. Again, this is the phase 3 of these workshops. Every year we try to change them a little bit based on your feedback because it's a work in progress. We learn so much from your questions, from different incidents. So that's why we try to bring, sadly, the most recent incident so we can continue to learn about this. But we'll stay here for any additional questions you guys may have. But if you need to leave, because you're busy people, feel free to leave and we can stay for additional questions. And Cole, did you get your question responded? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Great. Excellent. So again, make sure that you review your toolkit with great information about the phone numbers you need to have handy. Review that with your staff. Make sure you have your spill contingency plans up to date, that you also have emergency plans for other situation. Like we covered today, make sure you reach out to the team, Andrea, for potential grants or guidance and how private public sectors can work together. Or any question you may have in terms of a courtesy visit or any question, we're here to assist you. The email will have all the contact information. And please take time to fill out the evaluation form. And if you need to leave, you can leave. You are free from all this education. Bye, Danny. Good seeing you.
Everyone, thank you, Vivian, for putting this on every year. We really appreciate all your hard work.
No problem. Love to partner with our marinas, with our yacht clubs, with our boat yards and Coast Guard Auxiliary, because you guys are experts on the ground. So we want to make sure that everybody is full of great information. So always happy to partner with you guys. Ospera, that is a fantastic state agency as well, responding always and servicing all the Californians. Okay, so we'll stay for a couple of more minutes. If you need to leave, please leave, but help us with the evaluation form. We got another question. Is the toolkit the Marinas and Yacht Club response? Exactly. Thank you, Charlie. Yes, it's the packet toolkit. Sorry, I keep using the both terms. Yes. And that will be sent also, again, via email. So you have everything in one email. If you need to leave, feel free to leave. Otherwise, we'll stay here for additional questions. Have a fantastic Earth Day. I hope you do something fun and have a great Tuesday, everybody. If you need to leave, please leave. waiting for people to remove themselves, and then we can stay here for a sec. Sorry, I'm just removing some people manually.